At my father's retirement celebration, my sister remarked, "You can just leave the gift. Tonight's all about Dad." My mother murmured, "And please stay silent." I received an alert. $37.70 for catering had gone through. I froze the card, withdrew my approval from the vendor, and rejected the final payment. 2 hours later, my brother rang. "They've stopped everything." "No food," he said. I replied. "There was no place for me." Then I reserved a spot elsewhere. My sister Kendra had said, "Just drop off the gift. This night's for Dad," brushing non-existent dust off her high-end gown as if I were already intruding. I stood in the venue's foyer, clutching the meticulously wrapped mahogany watch box I'd spent weeks choosing and budgeting for. It wasn't inexpensive, nor was the $37.70 catering charge I'd covered that morning. No one had expressed gratitude. My mother leaned close, her stiff smile like a mask, whispering, "Don't speak. Let Kendra and the family manage the speeches." That moment clarified it. This wasn't my family anymore. It was theirs. I was just the person they leaned on to fill financial gaps when their funds fell short. My hand slid to my phone. A buzz, notification, $37.70 catering payment processed. I stared at the screen, then glanced around. Rows of pristine tables, silverware gleaming under leased chandeliers, staff weaving through with trays of prawns, guests already enjoying their wine. Dad was on stage, embracing Kendra like she was his only child. My name hadn't even made the opening remarks, so I tapped my phone, freeze card, cancel vendor approval, reject final payment. Done. 2 hours later, my phone vibrated again. Unknown number. It was Noah, my brother, the one who hadn't cut me off when I stopped covering his car insurance. "Man, they've shut it down," he said. "No food." "What happened?" I sipped my iced coffee, settled at a quiet diner across town. "There was no room for me," I said, "so I found space elsewhere." I hung up before he could reply. Then I ordered a dessert. They say family is everything. That you give what you can because blood runs deep. I used to believe that until I became a walking bank account with no voice. My father, Mark Ellison, had spent 40 years as a high school principal. A stern man, never absent, always preaching about duty and discipline. When he announced his retirement, the family dove into planning mode. Venue reservations, speech outlines, catering estimates piled up. But there was one issue. No one had the funds. Kendra, my elder sister, the PR star with perpetually flawless $500 haircuts, had maxed out her credit. "I'm managing logistics," she said. "Cash flow's tight right now." Noah, the artistic one, a graphic designer and gig worker who lived in a trendy loft and once crowdfunded his rent because his laptop needed better energy. My mother. She hadn't worked since 1998. Her role was maintaining harmony, or rather, ensuring everyone's comfort, even if it meant burying me. So who covered it all? Venue, $2,400. Catering deposit, $1,500. Decorations, $600 for custom banners and flowers. Emotional toll? Incalculable, all paid by me, Jason, the youngest. The one who works in tech, which they assumed meant I was some wealthy coder living in a digital palace. In truth, I oversee corporate cybersecurity projects. Decent salary, but I'm not a millionaire. Still, when Dad cracked a joke about my money tree, I chuckled along, because that's what I did. I laughed when Kendra declared I'd handle the budget. I laughed when Mom sent a Venmo request labeled miscellaneous celebration costs. I even laughed when Noah emailed an invoice for the slideshow he created, half filled with his own photos. But it wore me down, especially when my name was left off the official invitations, the ones I funded. "We listed only immediate family," Kendra said. "I am immediate family," I replied. "You know what I mean." I didn't. The breaking point wasn't just the money. It was the rehearsal night. I arrived early to help arrange the space. Kendra was issuing commands. Noah was teaching the bartender his signature cocktail recipe. I hauled in cases of champagne, sweating through my shirt. No one acknowledged me, not Dad, not Mom, not even a glance. I overheard Kendra chuckling with her friends by the stage. "My brother," she said. "Oh, he's here somewhere, don't worry. He'll disappear before the photos. He hates the spotlight." They all laughed. It wasn't funny. I had disappeared, or rather, they'd erased me. They valued what I provided, not who I was. Then, the day before the event, I got the final catering bill. An unexpected $37.70 charged to my card without warning. When I messaged Kendra, she replied, "Oh, we upgraded to prime rib." "Hope that's fine." "Fine." That's when I stopped being the dutiful son. I called the caterer, withdrew my approval, said the charge wasn't authorized. Then I reserved a table for one at a rooftop bistro across town. with proper linens and no veiled jabs disguised as toasts. 2 hours into Dad's retirement gala, I sat in a cozy booth at the rooftop cafe, sipping espresso and watching the chaos unfold. The event was unraveling in real time. No starters, no main courses, no desserts. No shrimp towers, no steak platters, no delicate canapes with edible blooms, just pandemonium. Texts flooded my phone. Kendra. Jason, what have you done? Mom, the food's gone, guests are hungry, fix this. Noah, they're panicking, man, people are walking out, fix it. I didn't reply. For once, they could deal with their own mess. Apparently, the caterers had arrived, set out a few trays, then got a call from their payment processor. My approval was revoked. With the final balance unpaid and contested, they couldn't legally continue service. Policy, no exceptions. The staff packed up, the food left the venue. 100 guests were left milling around empty tables with wine but no meal. I didn't ruin the event, I let it ruin itself. But then Dad called. I ignored it at first, then it rang again. And again and again, finally I answered. Jason, he said, voice low, restrained, like he was avoiding a scene. What's happening? I revoked my authorization, I said calmly. I never agreed to that final charge. You all decided without me, he exhaled sharply. So you're ruining your own father's retirement? I nearly laughed. My own father, I echoed. You mean the man who didn't invite me to speak at his event? Who let my sister treat me like I didn't exist? Who sat through rehearsal and didn't say a word to me? Jason, he hissed. This isn't about you. I stood up from the cafe table and walked to the balcony. The city glowed below, bathed in evening light. It's never about me, I said softly. Not when I pay for holiday flights, not when I cover Noah's rent, not when I settle your property taxes every April like clockwork. I'm just a resource, a wallet with feet. That's not fair, he snapped. We've always, no, I interrupted. You've always taken and I always gave, even when it hurt, but not today. He went quiet, then people are leaving. It's embarrassing, can you at least come explain? I laughed. You mean bail you out? Sorry, I've spent enough bailing everyone else out. Maybe Kendra can handle it, or Noah can design a pamphlet explaining the empty tables. Jason, he said again, softer. Your mother's upset. That paused me, briefly, but then I recalled her whisper, please don't speak. You should have considered that before erasing me, I said. Tell her to enjoy the evening. It's about Dad, right? Then I hung up. And blocked his number. 20 minutes later, the group chat erupted. Kendra sent a message with 7 exclamation marks. You've ruined everything? Noah added. We looked like idiots. You didn't just skip it, you let it fall apart. Good, I didn't respond, but I did share a photo. Me at the rooftop table holding a glass of white wine, smiling calmly. The caption was simple. Sometimes you leave the table when respect isn't on the menu. I posted it. The comments exploded. Old friends, former colleagues, even distant relatives. Love this. You did the right thing. Family doesn't mean sacrifice without appreciation. I was at that party, it was a mess. You were right to walk. By the time I paid my bill and left the cafe, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Not with guilt, not with regret, but with affirmation. Because for the first time in years I'd said no, and the world didn't collapse. They did, but it didn't end there. 2 days later, I got an email from the catering company's owner. Subject, Ellison event payment dispute. I expected legal jargon or threats. Instead, it read, Jason, thank you. I've been in this industry for 15 years. This was the first time someone had the courage to cancel payment after their family misused the contract behind their back. I overheard your sister's comments during planning. You didn't deserve that. I've refunded your deposit and blacklisted their account for future bookings. We don't tolerate disrespect. Tamara, Eden Events. I stared at the screen, then smiled. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt unburdened. 2 weeks later, Kendra reached out, an email cloaked in civility. Hi, Jason, I hope you're doing okay. I was shocked to hear about the trust. I think Dad might have misunderstood the legal allocation setup. Can we meet to discuss a fair way to share it? I responded with one line. The money's clear, only your expectations aren't. Then I blocked her. Noah called too from a hidden number. I just want to say, he started, I moved out of Mom's place. I'm crashing with a friend. After everything I understand now, I'm sorry. I stayed quiet. You were right, he continued. About all of it. I let him speak, then said, I accept your apology, but that doesn't mean you get access to me. And that was that. 3 days later, I booked a flight to Barcelona, stayed a month. While strolling through the Gothic quarter at twilight, watching street musicians strum guitars under golden lamps, I had a revelation. For years, I thought I had to earn my spot in the family. Now I realized I had to let them go. They weren't home, they were a pattern, and I was done. 6 months after the retirement event, my life was unrecognizable. Not because I'd changed, but because I'd finally embraced who I'd always been, beneath the guilt, the duties, the endless calls, and silent resentment. My days grew simpler, lighter. Mornings started without anxiety. No messages begging for help, no passive-aggressive voicemails, no emergencies dropped in my lap with a casual, "You're the reliable one, right?" I drank my coffee warm. I sat in peace. I breathed. For the first time in years, my life felt like mine. The trust Dad left gave me financial security, but his letter gave me something greater, permission. The thing I'd quietly craved since childhood. Permission to stop proving myself. Permission to stop sacrificing for people who only noticed when I stopped. But healing wasn't complete. Sometimes I'd pick up my phone, half expecting a text from Mom or Noah. I didn't miss the manipulation, but I missed what I wished our bonds could have been. Occasionally, I'd draft messages I'd never send. "I wish things had been different. You hurt me more than I ever admitted. But I'm glad I walked away." Instead, I wrote those thoughts in a private notebook, pages of quiet truths meant for no one else. I wasn't writing to be heard anymore. I was writing to know myself. One day, while sorting through clutter, I found a box of old birthday cards, dozens spanning a decade. Nearly all were from me to them. Each held a check, a warm note, a line offering support. Not one was from them to me. I laughed, not out of bitterness but clarity. I saw the cycle I'd been caught in. I was always the provider. They were always the recipients. And when I stopped giving, I became the antagonist. That wasn't love. It was reliance wrapped in family portraits. Walking away didn't make me heartless. It made me whole. That week, I took Juniper, the rescue dog I'd adopted post-party, on a hike. She chased dragonflies, yipped at twigs, and glanced back at me every few steps, ensuring I was there. She trusted me, not for what I gave, but because I showed up. Steadily, quietly, fully. I realized that's all I ever wanted. Not praise, not money, not even reconciliation, just someone who saw me and stayed. That evening, while cooking dinner, my phone pinged. A name I hadn't seen in months, Noah, no request for cash. Just a photo of a modest apartment with the caption, "Small, but I paid for it myself." I stared at it for a while, then typed, "Good, that's how it should be." Nothing more, nothing less. I didn't unblock Mom. I ignored Kendra's 10th apology letter, especially the one hinting at what Dad would have wanted. Because I knew what Dad wanted. He told me himself. He wanted me free, and I was. A few months later, I used part of the trust to launch something meaningful. A small foundation offering emergency grants to low-income young adults. People like me who'd been holding their families together with unseen effort. I called it the Anchor Fund because that's what I'd been for too long. Now I was the beacon. Maybe one day someone else, drowning in obligation and guilt, will find their way to safety because I lit the path. That's the legacy I want, not a speech at a banquet where I was silenced, not a nod from a family that once erased me. Just this, quiet peace, real boundaries, a life I built for myself without apology. The story didn't stop when I walked away. Stories like these don't end. They shift, they quiet, they resurface in unexpected ways, but most importantly, they transform when you refuse to play the role you were assigned. 6 months after starting the Anchor Fund, I received a handwritten letter. Real paper from Mom. "Jason, I still don't grasp why you did what you did. I know you feel we wronged you, but it never seemed that way to us. You were the strong one. We relied on you because we trusted you. I miss you. Love, Mom." I lingered on that "miss you." It wasn't an apology or accountability, but maybe for her it was a step. I didn't reply. By then I'd learned something vital. Closure doesn't always come with mutual agreement. Sometimes it's realizing you no longer need it. Kendra? She tried reinventing herself. New career, new persona. She posted a LinkedIn piece about boundaries and burnout, ironic enough to make me chuckle. Then she sent a DM. "I've changed. I'm not who I was. I hope you'll see that someday." I left it on read. Growth that demands validation from the person you hurt isn't growth. It's branding. Noah, though, stayed in touch, cautiously, respectfully. He never asked for money again. He mentioned starting therapy. One day he texted, "I found Dad's letter to you in Mom's drawer. I read it. I cried. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you." I responded, "It's okay. I didn't stand up for myself either, not until it was almost too late. I'm glad you're trying." He asked if we could grab lunch sometime. I said, "Not yet." But maybe. For the first time, maybe felt like a choice, not a postponement. Dad passed away 10 months after the party. Heart failure, no spectacle, no fuss, just a quiet exit for a loud man. I didn't attend the funeral, not out of malice, but because our final conversation was in that letter. That trust was his apology, that money his confession, his silence at the end his way of letting me breathe. The Anchor Fund grew. I met people who echoed my younger self, overworked, underseen, weighed down by family demands. I helped them fund courses, escape toxic homes, access therapy. Each time someone said, "I didn't think anyone noticed me," I'd nod. I knew that feeling. Now I'd built something that didn't just mend me, it spread that mending. A year after the party, on the same date, I reserved a table for one at the same venue where Dad's event was meant to happen. I ordered the meal they never ate, steak, potatoes, red wine. When the bill arrived, I smiled. I could pay not out of duty or guilt, but because I chose to. That small, quiet moment was the truest closure of all. If this story has a takeaway, it's this. Sometimes, the boldest act isn't facing your family. It's stepping off the stage before they hand you another script.